Oh, the day the wall came down. I teach you facts and put you in a frown. I'm sorry that you don't like the truth, but I'm gonna give it to you. Felix gonna give it to you. What? What's up, everybody? Here's a video from, I forgot who it is. Doesn't matter. There it is. Sage Rastafari. This is a video clip, a 10-minute video clip from a documentary called America, Freedom to Fascism. It's a movie documentary by Aaron Russo. Aaron Russo is a formerly famous Hollywood director. He was a part of either Jewel, the Nile, and Beaches, and Trading Places with Eddie Murphy. He helped create those movies. Well, in the early 2000s, I believe he was diagnosed with cancer. And him, like many of us, should I say millions of us in America, have learned that there is no law that requires an American living and working within the United States to pay an income tax, a tax on their labor. This has been going on since, let's see, I was 17 when I found out about this. So I was born in 76, 17, so 86 plus 7 is 1993. So since 1993, I've known it. There's been a $10,000 challenge to anyone who could produce the law, and not one lawyer, not one CPA, not the IRS, not H&R Block, not any tax attorney, not anyone has ever been able to produce the law that requires an American living and working within the United States to pay a tax on their labor. Okay? The tax code Title 26 was written by guys like Sheldon Cohen, the IRS commissioner you're going to see in this video here. And what they did was move sections around and change the language to make it seem like we still have to pay tax on our labor, but it's never been true, and the Supreme Court has ruled as such. But there's a gentleman named Max Harding on Facebook who wants to argue with me for weeks and weeks and weeks. And even though I provided this documentary, he just said this is a sales pitch. And even though I provided all the Supreme Court decisions, he just refuses to accept the truth. And here it is, the truth. And then he went on like a 5-day bender about how he gets tons of women. The guy's like 70 years old. He looks like a founding father, but he's the furthest thing from it. So I'm going to be pausing this video. This is Aaron Russo. He got himself a interview with Sheldon Cohen. And Sheldon Cohen was a former IRS commissioner, tax attorney. And when you watch the debates and stuff back in the day, you would see his name in the credits. So he is the swamp. He is a swamp monster. He is the one that could care less about the average American and only stands to make tons of money with him and his buddies and the people who are in and out of government. So here we go. Aaron writes here, this isn't good quality because it's old, and I'm sure this video will be taken off the internet if Google could have their way with it. I set out on a journey to make a film about whether or not there was a law requiring Americans to pay an income tax, or was the tax a fraud being perpetrated on the American public. Let's read this. The process of discovery brought something much more dangerous and frightening to my attention. Now I will bring it to yours. In 1913, America was a free country. The reason he's saying this is because 1913 is when the Federal Reserve Act was passed. I believe it was Christmas Eve when all the senators and stuff were at home celebrating Christmas, and they rammed through the Federal Reserve Act. And the guy, who was the guy? Woodrow Wilson even said he ruined his country by signing the Federal Reserve Act without knowing it. So in 1913, America was a free country. Then a hand of powerful bankers achieved their fathers' and great-grandfathers' goal. America has never been the same. And the goal was to take over the banking system and the Federal Reserve, which is a private bank, which I'm sure Max will say that's not true either. But here we go. Soon the world will not be the same. So, again, I've challenged Max Harding to a debate 20 times. He refuses to have a live debate with me because what you're going to see in this video is probably how it'd go down.
A message machine. Hi, this message is for Aaron Russo. This is Anthony Burke at the Internal Revenue Service. Let me suggest some people that you might want to think about talking to. One would be Don Alexander, who's a former commissioner who's here in town in Washington. Another would be Sheldon Cohen, who is both a former commissioner and former chief counsel. All those guys, I think, can answer your question about, where in the tax law it says that you have to pay taxes.
Wow, good news, I thought. So I called Sheldon Cohen because he used to be the IRS commissioner. He wrote the tax code, and he was also general counsel to the IRS. He is a true expert, and I couldn't find a better person to answer my question.
This is a true expert in IRS law, former commissioner, tax attorney, etc.
He graciously agreed to my interview. The reason I'm doing this documentary is because there are many people in America today who believe that there's no law that requires them to pay an income tax or file a 1040. And there are many people going to jail for it, fighting over it.
The Internal Revenue Code is authorized by the 16th Amendment.
I think
that's more nonsense too. The 16th Amendment, there's controversy there. And it was never properly ratified, first of all. And secondly, the 16th Amendment gave no new power of taxation. The same taxing power the government and Congress had before the 16th is the same power they had after the 16th, and that, I believe, is Stanton versus Baltic Mining.
Should be clarified. I think government should be transparent to the people. Why doesn't the IRS commissioner sit down with them and just explain it in clear English? Why?
I don't think they really care.
So, again, this guy's about to claim that Americans don't really care that you're stealing money out of their paycheck. They're just playing word games. So, this is a Max type person right here.
I think they're just playing word games.
Yeah, you don't think they're sincere people?
No, I don't think they're sincere people.
He doesn't think people like me and the millions of people who figured out that the income tax is a hoax really care about it. We're just playing word games. This is your expert IRS commissioner here.
What does voluntary compliance mean? And why does the IRS code say it's voluntary to comply, not mandatory?
This is another topic that I forgot to bring up on the Facebook. Voluntary compliance is in the tax code. The reason they say that is because you literally grab the paperwork. They don't send you anything, because if it was mandatory, they would just send you a bill. It's voluntary because you go get the paperwork or print it up or get on your computer. You submit all the information and you sign the paper under penalty of perjury. You volunteer all your information, which is legal, lawful. But the fact is, if you don't volunteer, they'll come and steal everything you've ever owned without due process.
That's a word euphemism we use. We use voluntary compliance when we talk about traffic signals. Most people.
That's a lie.
2 o'clock in the morning, do you stop at a red light?
Yeah.
Is there a cop there?
Sometimes I don't.
Well, I do. And most of us do.
Right.
But that's voluntary compliance.
That was a complete perversion of logic. Traffic laws state that it is mandatory to stop at a red light. The IRS code says it's voluntary to comply. Mandatory and voluntary are the complete opposite of each other. Yet he wants us to believe that they mean the same thing.
All right, here's another literature here. Your income tax is a 100% voluntary tax, and your liquor tax is a 100% enforced tax. The situation is as different as night and day. Dwight E. Avis, head of the Alcohol, Tobacco, Tax Division, Bureau of Internal Revenue.
So can the government criminally prosecute somebody of information put on their 1040?
Yes.
Right, so doesn't that violate the Fifth Amendment?
No.
Wait, so the Fifth Amendment, you have the right to remain silent. Everybody knows that if you watch L.A. Order or Law and Order, whatever the hell it's called. You have the right to remain silent. And the reason you remain silent is to not incriminate yourself. You have the right to not incriminate yourself. So what he's saying is you fill out that 1040. If you make a mistake on it, you could be held liable. But if you don't have the right to remain silent and force them to prove you did something wrong, the burden of proof is on you. And this is how our debate, no, it wasn't even a debate, it's a Facebook free-for-all. Because anyone who thinks you're debating on Facebook, you're not debating. You're literally playing, it's like saying I scored a three-pointer from the bench. Facebook is the bench. This is the field. When you want to have a live debate, you get on the field. You don't sit on the bench and bark. So the Fifth Amendment is the right to keep yourself from self-incrimination. Well, the IRS says you have to incriminate yourself or else. And the burden of proof is on the defendant in tax court, the exact opposite of every other court in the country, where the burden of proof is on the accuser. IRS is an unconstitutional, upside down. This is literally a domestic terrorist force that is basically the police force for the Federal Reserve.
The amendment says I don't have to do anything that incriminates myself.
Well, it doesn't incriminate you to put your income down.
But you said before I could be put in jail for it. The commissioner wants us to believe that although the IRS demands that you fill out the 1040 and you can go to jail for it, that they are not violating your Fifth Amendment rights of self-incrimination.
Of course they are.
That is absurd. Isn't it true that the word income is not defined anywhere in the Internal Revenue Code?
Look at this. I'm going to go back 5 seconds and just watch this awkward silence. The word income is not defined ever in the Title 26. And it was actually case law, Eisner versus Macombre, which some lady had gains. She had dividends paid on her stocks, and she said it wasn't income. She shouldn't have to pay tax on it. Well, the courts ruled that her gains and dividends are income, and that's what income is, gains or dividends from commercial activity. In other words, like my ring business. I buy a coin for $30, whatever it is. I add value to it by turning it into a piece of jewelry. Then I sell it for $70 or $80. That means I had a $50 gain, which means I have to pay tax on that $50 gain. When you work for somebody, you're making an even exchange. 8 hours of labor for this much money. There is no gains. It's an even trade.
Is not defined.
So here we go. Watch this awkward silence. Income is not defined anywhere in Title 26.
Anywhere in the Internal Revenue Code.
The law says that
The law says what, Sheldon?
the government has a right to tax income from any source derived.
So, but the
Yeah, that's the section Max keeps quoting to me as the law, even though nobody agrees with him. From income from any source derived. And what is income? Income is gains from commercial activity, dividends, gains, profits.
income is not defined in the code. It just says income without a definition
That's right.
of what income is.
That's right.
Correct?
Yeah.
There are many different kinds of taxes.
You hear that, Max? Even the IRS commissioner says income is not defined in Title 26. You'd have to go to the Supreme Court case, Eisner versus Macomber.
Well, how can an American citizen know what income is if the code doesn't define it? If they're paying an income
Because
tax,
the courts have all defined it.
Nonsense. He's talking about the lower courts and not the Supreme Court.
you remember what constitutional attorney Edwin Vieira said?
The definition of income in the Constitution was given in the Eisner versus Macomber case, and it turns on gains or profits that are made from some activity.
So the Supreme Court has ruled income is not wages, it's not labor, it's gain from corporate activity. I believe that a man's labor is his private property.
That's your view, but it's not the law.
The Supreme Court's
It actually is the law. Sheldon, you liar.
even said your
Private property.
That's your view, but it's not the law.
The Supreme Court's even said your labor is your private property. When I go to work for somebody, it's a trade. It's an even exchange. I do some work, you give me some money.
Here's some more literature. Chief among such contracts is that of personal employment by which labor and other services are exchanged for money or other forms of property. Copage versus Kansas, 236 U.S. 114, 1914. Exchanged.
In 1916, we had the Brucheva case and the Stanton case. And the Brucheva case and the Stanton case said that the 16th Amendment gave the government no new taxing power.
I'm not going to argue the niceties of that with you.
I'm not going to argue the niceties of that with you. The Supreme Court ruled that the 16th Amendment gave the Congress and the government, no new power of taxation. This gentleman right here, Larkin Rose, has also a beautiful documentary that explains Title 26. It's called Theft by Deception, Larkin Rose. Type in Theft by Deception, Larkin Rose. He'll explain the whole history of Title 26 and how scumbags like Sheldon Cohen wrote it to trick you.
Came up again in a case called Peck versus Lowe, where the Supreme Court said the 16th Amendment did not extend Congress's taxing power to any new or accepted subjects. In other words, if you weren't taxable before the 16th, you weren't taxable after the 16th.
Today I interviewed a juror, okay, who sat on a case, and they found the person not guilty for lack of filing, okay? And I asked her why they found him not guilty. And she said because the IRS couldn't show us the law that made him liable to file a 1040.
All they need to do, if there is a law, is to show us the law, which, of course, they never did.
And the reason they didn't do it was why?
Because there is no law.
So that's Marcy Brooks from the Whitey Harrell case. Whitey Harrell is a gentleman who also learned the truth that you don't have to legally file a 1040. You don't have to self-incriminate yourself, basically. That's what you're doing when you're filing a tax return. So when they went to court, she was one of the jurors, and our whole argument was, show me the law and I'll pay all the taxes and fines and everything you want. And they glossed right over it in the court case like he didn't even say it, because they're not working on law. They're working on threats and intimidation. So the jurors went to deliberate. They were arguing with each other. They went back. They asked the judge, please show us the law. And the judge sent back a message saying, you have everything you need. So they found Whitey Harrell innocent because you don't have to file a tax return. You don't have to incriminate yourself under the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. But again, look at this guy. This is the demon that has ruined America. Him and his ilk.
26 requires you to file a return.
But doesn't Title 26 have to be in compliance with the Supreme Court decisions?
You're going to take a 1920 case and superimpose it on the whole.
You're going to take a 1920 Supreme Court case and superimpose it over our rulings that we like better? You hear this guy? Again, listen to this idiot. This is your IRS commissioner, tax attorney. People think just because you have a label, doctor, scientist, blah, 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 that means that you're superior or have some kind of better status. People who go to college act like this. They have the Dunning-Kruger effect. They think they're better than they really are. So, again, this is your expert lawyer here who doesn't understand that SCOTUS decisions are the precedent or are the rule.
With the Supreme Court decisions.
You're going to take a 1920 case and superimpose it on the whole Internal Revenue Code that was written after it? No, that's not.
I can't believe what I just heard. Rewind.
You're going to take a 1920 case and superimpose it on the whole Internal Revenue Code that was written after it? No, that's not.
Remember he said earlier the Internal Revenue Code was authorized by the 16th Amendment?
The Internal Revenue Code is authorized by the 16th Amendment.
Remember, the Supreme Court said the 16th Amendment did not give the government any new taxing power. These decisions have never been overturned. Let's listen further. Can the lower courts overrule the Supreme Court?
No.
How are they putting people in jail today for not paying a tax on their labor when the Supreme Court said they don't have to? Doesn't the IRS code have to be in compliance with the Supreme Court? That's my question.
This is a waste of time.
There you go. This is just like Max Harding right here. This is a waste of time. I don't need to debate you. You're wrong. I have women to get back to. And I'm trying to rent some exotic animals for my super yacht. I ain't got time to sit here and explain to the American people if there's an actual law that says they have to pay tax on their labor.
Well, because whatever I say, you're not going to believe.
He's right. I don't believe him.
Why should he believe you? You obviously don't know the basics of law, and you and your ilk have ruined America with this crap.
And neither should you. He wants us to believe we should obey the IRS code, which is being enforced in violation of the many Supreme Court decisions. If the Supreme Court made a decision.
Thank you, Aaron. I think we're finished.
So there you go. And this is the same thing I tell Max. The Supreme Court ruled that the 16th had no new power of taxation, and that income is actual gains. And people who do make gains, businesses, do have to pay a tax on their gains. People who work, your labor is not for them to steal. The government taking money out of your paycheck, they're literally telling you how much of your earnings you get to keep. That's the definition of slavery. All right, let's finish this up.
Sorry, Mr. Cohen, you're doing that.
Well, I'm sorry that you constantly re-argue the point. You're liable because the law says that you're liable.
The law does not say you're liable. Again, this is just like Max. It just says because it says so. But it doesn't, and the Supreme Court's ruled against you.
The courts say the law says you're liable, and that's why you're liable.
You see, he's talking about the lower courts, who are not in compliance with the Supreme Court, as they have to be. Doesn't the court have to be in compliance with the Supreme Court?
The Supreme Court has so held.
Where?
You caught me.
Oh, the Supreme Court is so held. Yeah, where? You caught me unprepared. Oh, we can do it again. Oh, no, I don't want that. Again, this is what it would look like if I debated Max. And it's funny, Max and this guy kind of look like each other.
Unprepared.
I'll come back.
Well, I don't want to do that.
But let me ask you.
I don't want to come back prepared because then the actual truth might come out and I have to admit that I'm a career criminal.
Hypothetical question.
No. Well, I don't want to do that.
But let me ask you a hypothetical question.
No. You're making silly arguments here.
This is another thing that Max said. This is frivolous arguments that you have the right to keep your own money. That's a frivolous argument that the government can't steal your money. What are you talking about?
Why is the Supreme Court decision a silly argument?
Well, because it's inapplicable.
The Supreme Court is inapplicable according to the IRS commissioner and attorney. You guys hearing this? Max, you hearing this?
That made my heart stop. He just said Supreme Court decisions do not apply to the IRS. That's the behavior you would
Either does the Constitution.
expect from a totalitarian country, maybe China or Russia or Cuba. Not from America. They're just making up the law as they go along. Now I knew the tax honesty movement was right. The IRS thrives on intimidation and fear, not by law.
That's all they're about. Coercion, duress, and threats. That's it.
It's no different than a criminal protection racket, using force to extract your money from you. Then the former IRS commissioner, now working at a prestigious Washington law firm, threatens me. Watch.
Aaron, you understand Yiddish. Gornished helfen.
For those of you who don't understand Yiddish, that means nothing will help you.
Nothing will help you. And that, he might as well be saying that to every American right in the face. We're going to take your money out of your paycheck, regardless if it's constitutional, regardless if the Supreme Court has ruled otherwise. We don't care. We'll send guys with guns to ruin your life. Nothing will help you.
Now it all became clear. I understood what
This video of this guy right here, this is another IRS commissioner who directly was asked by media, where is the law? And he started talking in circles.
the IRS wouldn't go on camera and talk about where the law was. I understood why all the senators I called refused to be interviewed. There is no law. And now you know what our political leaders and the courts have known for decades and have tried to cover up. The United States Constitution strictly forbids a direct, unapportioned tax on the wages and salaries of American citizens. The United States Supreme Court has consistently ruled that the income tax is a tax on profits and gains, not on labor and wages. On behalf of the American people, I challenge the IRS to show me a statute that allows a direct, unapportioned tax on the wages and labor of the American people. And if I'm wrong, I will give my most humble apologies to the IRS. If the IRS is wrong, and there is no law, then every person who's been jailed should be let out of jail immediately, and any assets seized should be returned to their rightful owners. If this is a nation of laws and a free country, then the IRS should show the law to the American people.
And I'm going to leave the links to the descriptions. Max, let's see you counter this video. And if you start talking in circles like the idiot you are, I'm just going to keep deleting your comments. Deleting your comments is better than blocking you because you still get to see all the truths I tell about, and I won't let you respond unless you respond pertinently. So if you want to have a real live debate about this subject and you think you can counter the facts in this video I just made, let's do it. Otherwise, you're just, you're the old man on the river groping young girls. This guy sends me videos of him groping young girls at look barely to be 18. So anyway, links in the description. America, Freedom to Fascism, Director's Cut, Theft by Deception, Larkin Rose, and I'm going to post a link to the $300,000 challenge. You can provide the law that makes Americans living and working in the United States liable to pay a tax on their labor. They will give you $300,000. Something Max wouldn't try to collect because he claimed that the rules weren't fair. So I'll put the links in the description and you be the judge. Please leave comments. And if you're on Facebook, tell Max hello. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks for watching and see you.